Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Wingate Solutions. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is going to be a continuation video on testing the Rosco Manufacturing canine barrel. This is the collab between them and the Barrel and Hatchet guys. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about this thing for a second, then we'll get into shooting it. You guys might have seen my recent video where I did a first impressions on this barrel, and that was mostly a function test video, kind of just, again, my initial thoughts, and kind of to see how well it was gassed. This thing's supposed to be optimized to run suppressed and unsuppressed, so that was kind of what that video was for. So if you want to check that out, if you guys are looking for some extra data points on whether it's going to be a good purchase for you, you might want to check that video out. But so yeah, let's talk about it for a second. 16-inch intermediate length 416R stainless barrel. It has a medium, like heavy profile to it. It's a pretty stout barrel, which I like for like a precision setup. It's a little heavier than the Ballistic Vantage Hansen profile barrels that I typically run. You guys know I like that profile a lot. I'm a huge fan of a continuous tapered barrel. I don't like government or any type of barrel profile that has a lot of meat out front. It's just not ergonomic. They're not usually that handy, and it doesn't really make sense to have meat out front and not as much of a barrel out towards the chamber. So they've done this one really well in that it's pretty hefty back here. Still balances real nice. You will notice it's a little heavier than like your standard barrel weight. I don't have the specifics offhand. Check out their website or whatever if you want that. But I can say I like the way it balances. Even though it's heavier, it has that continuous taper that tends to do better with heat and that sort of thing. So all in all, I love the profile of this thing. The 416R is cool. Typically that's going to be better for a precision oriented barrel. It's not always the case, but I like a 416R barrel. I don't have any problem with that. And it's nitrided. So longevity will kind of speak for itself as I use this thing more. I plan on this being on the channel for a while. So obviously I'll keep you guys up to date on how this runs as far as round count as I use it a lot more thoroughly. So intermediate gas system. They're really cool in theory. I don't have any experience with them other than this. I like the idea of having a longer than mid-length gas system for a 16, but it's shorter than a rifle length, which typically doesn't run well on a 16-inch barrel. Rifle lengths are usually going to be used on 18-inch and up. And you guys know, if you follow my channel for a bit, I love 18-inch rifle length barrels. They're just super smooth. They just run really well. They're just not usually that handy when you start throwing cans on the front. So a 16-inch to me is kind of perfect for a general purpose, precision-oriented gun. And that's kind of where I see this barrel being perfect for. So that intermediate gas system is really cool. In theory, it should be tuned well for running a can, and they claim that it runs well with a can and without. And for my testing so far, very minimum testing, it does run well both, at least with my setup, my can, and the ammo I'm using. So I really like the idea of that intermediate gas system. And before I forget, I have zero affiliation with Rosco Manufacturing or the Barrel and Hatchet guys. I think their channel is really cool. I follow them. I like the message they put out, but I don't know them. They didn't send me this. I bought this with my own money. So that is what it is. Want to get that out there for you guys so you know there's no like bias as far as me representing them. I don't know those guys. They don't know me, but I do think they're cool. So take that for what it is. But yeah, we'll get into the testing now. So this is just a first, well, not a first groups test. I'm going to do groups on paper for you guys. So precision groups, 5-round groups, 100 yards. And I say it's not first because I actually filmed this video last week. And then I got home to edit it and I realized my mic was jacked up and didn't get a single clip of audio for like most of the video. I guess I must have bumped it and turned it off, and like a rookie, I didn't realize that. So it wasn't all for nothing besides me just redoing this, because you'll get twice the data out of it. I saved the target from last week, so we'll talk about that once I am done shooting. So we'll have at least twice as much as far as groups, or on 2 different days worth with the same ammo to kind of compare and contrast, just to see if there's any consistency. So this will be the second day of me putting this thing through some precision testing. Like I said, 100 yards, 5-round groups. I'll do like 5 different types of ammo. I'm just going to be proned out with a bag and a bipod. So relatively stable, but I'm not going to be like lead sledding it or anything like that. So there definitely is user error involved. So take that for what it is, and we'll talk about that as we go. All right, guys, talk about the rifle for a second, then we'll get to shooting it. So I'm running a LaRue MBT 2-stage trigger. Good trigger for the money. They've treated me really well over the years. I will do a trigger video at some point. can on the front, just my Sandman K that's been converted by Echo Machine to be hub compatible. So I'm running Plan B muzzle devices on that. And scope-wise, this scope does not live on this gun. I took it from a different rifle. I have a 2.5 to 10 that's going to be on this gun long term. This is a 4 to 16 though, so it gives me a little more magnification for making sure my groups are a little better, just to take a little bit of the me variable out. This is an Arkin LH4 4 to 16. I'm still testing this thing out. I did a first impressions video on that for you guys. So far I like it. I really like the low profile cap turrets. Works really well for under the top dot. And for what I'm doing with this type of setup, I like a cap turret. The reticle is awesome. Really nice reticle in these. Designed pretty well for my needs. And it works a lot better for doing groups because of the real small center aiming dot than my 2.5 to 10 from primary arms I typically use. So that's why I put this on here quick for the test. Sorry, I don't have a second camera. I'm going to shoot. We'll talk as I kind of go. If you want to skip forward to the end, that's when I'll show you guys the targets, kind of talk about that. Obviously I don't care if you guys skip forward, but you might get something out of it if you watch. So it's up to you guys. So yeah, this thing isn't like dialed in, zeroed for this rifle. It's on paper enough for me to show you guys groups. I don't care that the groups aren't going to be like centered on the dots that I'm trying to shoot. Just so you guys understand that this isn't a zeroed setup for this, because this optics can be put back on a different rifle. I'll reconfirm that one. I'll throw 2.5 to 10 back on this guy, and then I'll dial in this 0 for the future. But just for today, I wanted to have that extra magnification just so I could see a little better and get some better groups for you guys. And that's what I did last week when I filmed it as well and had this optic on it. So those variables don't change. One variable that I'm kind of interested to see is when I did it last week, all of my ammo was stored out in my garage. That's detached, not heated, and it was cold. I mean, we're talking like single digits up to like, you know, just below freezing temperature swings for a few days. So the ammo was really cold when I did the test. I don't know how much that affects things. I know in theory it affects temperature affects velocity of the ammo. Some of you guys might know more than I do, so let me know down in the comments. Whether or not it opens up or closes the group sizing, having cold or hot ammo, that I just don't have enough experience to have any proven data points on that to tell you guys. So if you do, let us know. So today, the ammo is going to be warmer. It was stored inside my house all night. I've only been outside in the cold for a few minutes to film the intro and meat and potatoes of the video so far. So the ammo is relatively warm. At least it isn't like ice cold. So I'm kind of curious to see if that affects the groups or not. So anyway, I think that gets the variables out of the way. Let's get to shooting it. First 5 rounds, it's going to be the 75 grain AAC ammo. It's a Hornady projectile, but it's loaded by AAC. You can get this ammo through Palmetto State Armory. Good ammo for the money. It's not a precision round like a Black Hills. Like, you're not paying big money for this round. It's a cost-effective way to get into heavier, accurate bullets. So I like it for the money. It tends to shoot pretty well through some of my guns. And this one, the jury's still out. Didn't group the best last week, so I'm kind of excited to see how it does today. But anyway, 5 rounds, 75 grain AAC. Get myself situated here, make sure my cant's on and all that, and then we'll get shooting. All right, this will be dead center of the target. All right. Yeah, not the greatest. I'm thinking it doesn't like this ammo too much. Still shoots okay, but like I said, I'll show you guys when we're done. All right, moving on. All right. So I'll probably do another group of that 75 grain AAC as my last group, just because that was my cold bore. So we'll see that how it is down there. I want to kind of get a second group of it though, where it's a little bit warmed up, just to see how it does as far as that goes. Just take that a little bit of the variable out. Anyway, next up, this is the 75 grain Hornady Frontier. It really likes this ammo so far from at least my group last week. This ammo was driving tacks out of this barrel. So I'm excited. I hope it can handle that again. It was getting like a 0.7 inch group. And that was with me not even being, that stable. So there's a little bit of user error. So I'm kind of excited for this round through this gun. So this is that Hornady Frontier 75 grain. I've had really good luck with this this round. It's typically maybe a little bit more expensive than that AAC ammo. And then depending on where you order from and depending on whether it's in stock. But I've really liked this ammo over the years. It was my go-to for a while. So let's see how it does. This will be top left. All right, not bad. From just where I'm seeing from here, it's looking like maybe an inch. Shot number 2 did not feel like my best break, so it is what it is. If you guys watch some of my other videos, I'll tell you straight up, I measure the groups all 5 no matter what. If I did pull one, or I know I released that shot when my reticle was off target, I'll let you know. But my data is still the full 5 round group. But I like to be honest. If I screw it up, I'll let you know. But like I said, I still believe in measuring all 5, not taking out flyers, because it's how you shot on that given day. I take them all into account. Anyway, let's move on. All right, next up is the 69 grain ADI. It's 69 grain Sierra Match King round. I believe it's Australian Defense Industries. Typically, this can be found at Global Ordnance. No affiliation, but that's where I've gotten from them in the past. Good round for the money. I like 69 grain round. It's kind of right in that middle where a lot of rifles like it, and I think it's underrated because most people will shoot either 55 grain Plinkin ammo or go straight up to like 77 grain. But I think the 68, 69 grain rounds kind of get overlooked, but sometimes they shoot really well. This one historically has shot well for me, so I'm kind of excited to see how it does in this gun. Let's see. This will be top right. Cool. Looks good from here. All right, next up will be bottom left. This is another tack driver for me, pretty typically, and it's the 55 grain Sierra Blitz King through ADI as well, Australian Defense Industries, if I remember the name correctly. But it's a 55 grain Blitz King round, typically a varmint round, but this one specifically is a tack driver, usually for me. And I think from what I remember from last week, it shot this one really well too. So I'm excited for this one. All right, lower left. All right. That fourth one didn't feel like my best, but still looks like a decent group. All right. Last, and in my opinion, certainly least, is 55 grain XM193 5.56 full metal jacket. It's the round that most guys shoot, most guys have a lot of. Unless you're setting this up to be a precision rig where you're going to be probably shooting a heavier round, most guys are just going to shoot that 55 grain ball ammo. It does not drive tax typically. If you get a unicorn of a barrel that shoots XM193 really well, like I said, it's pretty much a unicorn because it's just not loaded consistently enough to be like a match round. Usually, if XM193 shoots at like 2.5, then it's pretty good. You know, between 2 and 3 inches is kind of normal and acceptable in my book. So I think it's probably about where this one will be, around that 2.5 inch range. So we'll see. This will be lower right. All right, pretty much to be expected. All right, before we go down, bonus round, I want to do another group of the 75 grain AAC because I shot that cold. So I want to give that one more chance. And that's mainly because it has been my typical round lately to use as my go-to round for doing a lot of my training. So if this gun really doesn't like it, then I'm going to move on to something different. And that round might be the 75 grain Hornady Frontier, which I'll shoot another 5-round group right now because it seems to really like that round. So I'm going to shoot both those rounds again for 5-round groups. Then we'll go down and check them out. So 75 grain AAC. I don't know which target I'm going to use. All right, right target, it'll be the top left dot. All right. All right, let's see, 75 grain Hornady Frontier for this last group. Sweet. All right, let's go check them out. All right, guys, we'll look at these groups real quick and we'll talk about it. So I'm going to start with the 75 grain AAC. So this was my cold bore group. Definitely not the best. I kind of talked about it when we were shooting that I don't think this barrel, you know, ultimately loves that ammo, and that's okay. Every barrel is not going to like the same rounds. So you're going to have to find the ones that are kind of the sweet spot for that gun. Obviously, in a perfect world, we're going to have a barrel that shoots different ammos consistently well. That's always preferred, but it's not always the case. So you got to find kind of what it likes. And so far, 2.25, not that great. Come over here, same ammo for a 2.1. That was that last group I did with that ammo. So second to last group of the day. Pretty good grouping here. Whether or not this one was me, I don't know. I don't recall that being something that I didn't feel like I pulled that one. Maybe I did. I don't remember what I said when I shot it. But either way, like I said, that's my 5 shots. That's what I'm going to measure. It absolutely could be me affecting that group size. That's definitely a possibility. And then I'll come down to last week's real quick, and I'll kind of go back and forth. This one right here in the center, That is a 2.2. So consistent size grouping then for the AAC. So we're in that 2 to 2.25 size for that ammo. Not horrible. Maybe it'll start to like it a little more, or maybe the batch I got, has some inconsistencies to it, but it just is what it is. It just might not like that ammo. But, real quick before I don't say it again, the group here is obviously pretty much straight above the bullseye there. And you can see these are up and to the right. That's not at fault of like the gun or anything. That I shot these groups last week with a hasty, good enough 0 for the test. I went home before I realized that my mics didn't work. I swapped the scope back on the rifle that it was supposed to be on, and then realized that I screwed up. So I took it off and put it back on this gun for this week's test, and just didn't do any 0 confirmation. So the fact that the groups are a little bit different, that's not an inconsistency problem. That's literally just a mechanical thing of me mounting the scope. So don't worry about that at all. That's not part of the test for today. Moving on. So the 75 grain Hornady Frontier, these felt pretty good. There's 5 rounds here. There's 2 up in this corner. 1.2, so that's okay. I mean, it's not breaking that 1-inch threshold, but that's still a good group. It shot that ammo really well when I did my group from last week. I'll show you that in a second. So 1.2, I come down here. That was my final group. Again, I don't know if I screwed that up or not, but I got a 1.25 for the whole thing. If that was me, obviously that's a phenomenal group, but that just could have been a fluke, or it could be the barrel, or it could be me, like I said. And last week, I had this 0.7 with that same ammo. So it was really consistent for that specific 5 rounds. Obviously, this will be one that moving forward is probably going to be one I'll 0 this rifle for, because I have a decent amount of this ammo. And I will probably do some 10-round groups, particularly for that like course of fire, getting the barrel hot type of drill. So that's something I definitely like, that accuracy. So at lowest, I have 0.7 on that. At highest, I have 1.25. So that kind of brings me right into that 1-inch threshold. So I'm happy about that. So moving on, I have 69 grain ADI. That up there is unfortunately one of the shots for the group. So it was really nice. I don't remember which round that was. Couldn't really see when I was shooting. I didn't notice till I got down here that I yanked that one. I don't feel like I did that with the trigger press. If anything, my wobble zone for any of these groups, because I do have a little bit of movement. Like, I'm not in a lead sled and I'm not a perfectly stable shooter. So my reticle typically is hovering right around this dot. So if I am off by half an inch or so, that's probably me, or possibly me. I mean, obviously I can do that as well. I'm not saying I can't yank around, but I don't think I did. So that's the group. It had 1 flyer. So obviously it would have been under an inch here, but altogether with that full 5, I'm at 2.7. So not that great. And pretty similar last week on that ammo with a 2.4. You can see I got a couple that are really consistent, and then I have those sporadic ones. So that might be something I'll see in further testing, but at least it's consistent group there, 2.4 and 2.7. Moving on, I have the 55 grain Blitz King. So a little bit of an odd group. I don't remember, you guys might, or I'll check in editing whether or not I said one felt like it was not a good shot or not. But those 4 are real consistent. Then I have this one down here. Unfortunately, that screws up the group, but it is what it is. 1.5 inch for those 5. I come down to last week when I did the same test. I had pretty similar results, exactly an inch, at least for my crude measuring. I'm just using a measuring tape, guys, and just kind of getting an estimate for you guys. I'm not using a calipers or anything, but 1 inch. This one I specifically remember when I filmed this video that I called this shot. That's what I said. I'm still measuring it as a full inch, but this shot, when I broke that shot last week, my reticle was just off the left edge. Again, through that wobble, pressing that trigger, it went off while my reticle was just over here. And I called that during that video. I remember at least saying it, even though the audio didn't pick it up. So that would have been probably a better group if I didn't do that, but it is what it is. That's not bad. 1 inch and 1.5. With that shooter error involved, I'm still pretty happy with that, that load in that barrel. And moving on to 55 grain XM193. a little bit bigger than I was hoping. 3.25. That's a pretty good sized group there. But kind of typical to that ammo. It's just not a precision round. And then I go to last week for you guys. I had 2.25, which is pretty typical. So again, between that 2 and 3 or 3.25 inch range is kind of expected for that ammo. I'll give you guys a little bit further back so you can kind of see that if you want to see them compared. But that's that. I know this is not very professional. And there's that for you guys to kind of get an idea. So they shot pretty comparable to last week. So I didn't get much of a difference in the temperature of the ammo. So I was kind of curious to see what would happen with that. I'm sure there still is an effect. It's just not enough maybe for me with my small amount of testing to recognize the difference there. All right, guys, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions or anything that I didn't answer, please put it down in the comments. I'll be glad to help. I'm going to do further testing on this build. It's going to be part of the channel for a while, both passively as far as like my range videos and me just putting a lot of work to this gun, but I'm also going to do some more specific testing. Like I want to see how this thing handles heat. I'm going to get this thing pretty warm, do some group testing that way, see how well it handles that heat, whether the groups open up, whether it changes impact, point of impact shift from getting hot. I'm going to test all that stuff for you guys. So let me know if that's what you want to see and I'll prioritize it for you. And if there's anything else you guys want to see that you think I can do, please drop it down in the comments. Other than that, again, I really appreciate you guys. Consider subscribing. It really helps grow the channel. Share this with your buddies if it's something they're into. And hit that thumbs up like button. And like I said, throw me a comment or two. I really appreciate it. If you want to support us in any other way, you can check out our website, a very small business, Wingate Solutions, LLC.com. Make handmade 2-point minimalist rifle slings. We call it the Freedom Sling. And we make sling retention straps for stowing that sling on your rifle when you don't want the sling dangling. We also make holster leg straps. We got some other cool things coming down the pipeline. And we also have an Instagram. That's at Wingate Solutions. Give me a follow over there. I usually kind of try to stay up to date on some of the info with my company as far as that goes. Give you guys a little bit of updates on the channel. And other than that, guys, again, I really appreciate you. Till next time, get out and train.